Thanks. Okay, so I'm Alisa Rod. I'm the Associate Director of the Empirical Reasoning Center at Barnard College, which is a women's college and one of the 4 undergraduate colleges of Columbia University. So we do a variety of workshops. In background, we offer GIS workshops mostly. We offer a lot of different kinds of workshops, different tools, different areas related to data, but our GIS workshops are mostly tied to courses, so they're embedded within a course and they're to provide training for students either for one assignment or for like a project. So it could be anywhere from like 1 intro overview workshop of GIS to 6-7 workshops over the course of the semester. And we spend a lot of time like designing and redesigning our workshops, as I think a lot of people do this kind of training, thinking about what do we want the students to learn or what do we hope that they're gaining from this, especially if it's tied to a course that has learning goals that have been designed just for what the students should get out of the workshop. So one of the questions we had this year, so we had a little bit more time, we were thinking like, are these workshops actually working? Are students learning anything in the workshop? Are they learning what we think they're supposed to be learning? So we wanted to design an assessment to sort of figure out if people are moving from mainly like a not proficient kind of area to either just basic proficiency or just see if they're moving above that. But the goal is just basic proficiency in most cases, especially for the one-off workshops. So these are the learning goals that we had articulated, and we give these to faculty members, they put them in their syllabus, and they specifically say that they're learning these, they're supposed to gain these skills during our workshops. So it goes through like the committee on instruction, like it's pretty, and so that's part of this as well, is that faculty are now coming back to us and saying we need to assess whether we're meeting our learning goals, and your curriculum is part of this, so we have to figure that out as well. So we did a pilot in the spring, this past spring. We had 3 classes that we were working with that had GIS workshops that we were doing in the classes, and a lot of these workshops are tailored for the class, but we have about 4 that we have that are sort of standard that we just put into any class that's in the humanities or social sciences. So it's the same workshops even though the classes are on different topics. So there was a 19th century spatial history of New York City, a class on Bombay, Mumbai, and a class in the architecture department. So the first 2 are history and the third is in the architecture department. The first 2 had 4 to 7 workshops, and the last one had 1 workshop and 1 assignment. But the first 2 had big projects involving maps that were part of the course. So we had a pre and a post test. I used a scale called the subjective numeracy scale to assess the goal about whether this is like a quantitative skill or an empirical skill. And it's a measure of sort of like how much confidence someone has in their own numeracy. It's correlated with measures of objective numeracy, but it's less like you're not taking a math test at the beginning of a mapping workshop. It makes more sense to just have, so it's basically the questions are like how comfortable are you with fractions, things like that. And then we had designed an assessment that has like them look at a map, and there's 6 conceptual questions that touch on different things like design, and the data and the context for the map and things like that. I put on my intern yesterday. I was like, give me a visualization of the pre and post test. So the downside is that we had 40-something students across these classes. Only 18 took both the pre and the post. We had some issues with the administration of the post test in one of the classes. I wasn't teaching that one. So I mean, it's fine for a pilot study, but like not generalizable whatsoever. We're not going to look at anything statistical with this because it doesn't make sense. And so my intern put this up really quickly, and I wasn't really specific, and I looked at it this morning, and I was like, oh, I would have said some more stuff to like make it clear, but basically one thing I'll point out is like all these participants, there's not that many, it's like 9, but all the ones that went up in their score, they were in that 19th century spatial history class, which had 7 or 8 workshops. All the ones that went down were in that architecture class that had 1 workshop. And the interesting thing is we also had questions in the course evaluations about their experience in the workshop and what they learned. And in the architecture one, we got comments like, did we have a workshop? Like, were we supposed to learn about mapping? Like, and one person said, like, how are we supposed to learn GIS in 1 workshop? That's outrageous. Like, I didn't learn anything. I was so confused. The software's confusing. Like, we used ArcMap. Actually, I think it was QGIS in that workshop. But so something that we're thinking about now is about rethinking our expectations for our one-off, one-hour workshops, and like, it might be controversial or sad, but like, is that the timer?
It is.
Okay, so then the main thing is like, can anyone even learn anything in a one-hour workshop? That's the question we're thinking about now.